First and foremost, I want to apologize for my voice, guys. I'm sorry, going through it a little bit when it comes to my voice. I'm sick, but I still wanted to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade demo on the Nintendo Switch 2. We've got the tech breakdown a bit from Digital Foundry, but what's more important is the actual feel in your hands when you're playing portable mode, when you're playing docked mode, and this is a very interesting port, and I think that they did a little bit of the impossible with this, like we've seen with some of the other big AAA types of ports. So for those who don't know, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade was originally just FF7 Remake on the PlayStation 4. It was later ported to the PlayStation 5 with some upgrades here and there with like fog and lighting and textures and a couple different things. And this Nintendo Switch 2 version is based off of the PS5 version of the game. And according to Digital Foundry, at least, there's things that are as good as the PlayStation 5 version, but then there's also things that are maybe slightly worse here or there than the PlayStation 4 version, but overall it's a better version and more crisp than even the Xbox Series S version when it comes to the image, at least. So there's a number of different things when it comes to this version of the game that shows that, yeah, it is a conversion x86, usually built off of a hard drive or SSD, converting over to the ARM architecture. Definitely some changes, but some good stuff when it comes down to it. Now, I played through the full demo. I played through it fully on my Nintendo Switch 2 that I have hooked up to a capture card on my monitor as well. And then I'm playing through portable a little bit too. Plus, I'm also going to play on my LG OLED with HDR and all of that. So I played through all of those modes, and I want to give you guys my thoughts and impressions on this and how they kind of did a little bit of the impossible with this port on the Nintendo Switch 2. So in this demo, you go through the first area of the game. You have the tutorial where you learn how to fight with Cloud. Also, Barrett gets in the action as well. Then you have a Scorpion boss fight towards the end, plus the ending sequence where everything blows up and you got to get out of there in a certain amount of time. You of course play as Cloud Strife, the ex-soldier overall for the evil Shinra Corporation, and you're going through and trying to blow up this Mako reactor that's sucking the planet dry of resources overall with a resistance group called the Avalanche with Barrett and his crew. So it's a pretty interesting story. I do like it, and things are different if you play through the full game, which I already have played through the full game on the PlayStation 4 back in 2020, and I do recommend it overall. I think it's a great game, and I have my original review if you want to check that out on the PlayStation 4. But yeah, I think that the fun things with this demo, or more like the fun thing with the combat system in this game, I love with Cloud, you can kind of get up close and personal with this Buster Sword, pressuring enemies, making them stagger, doing different types of magic. It's really fun to slash around and destroy things with Cloud, but then also Barrett can come through, get the long range enemies, get the flying enemies, and has a whole different toolkit and a different set of skills to deal with certain enemies. So it's a really good contrast when it comes to a demo and showing how the dynamic battle system can kind of play a part, how you can switch on the fly, which is definitely good. And it's a lot of fun when fighting, especially when fighting tough enemies like the Scorpion battle at the end of the first area here. So very cool when it comes down to that. It feels like when they created this combat system, they really did create it to feel like each character really has a really good strength. And you'll find out more with other characters like Tifa, kind of what she can do, how fast she is, some of her stuff, and also Aerith, her magic ability, and all of that. So I really love the combat system in this game. It feels really chunky and weighty at times between Cloud slashes, some of his different moves you can do, which you can map when it comes to special attacks that you can do as well, that really do a good job of putting more, I would say, pressure on the enemy, putting up their stagger meter, or even doing special effects on them, magic as well to combo up. So it's really good overall, and I highly suggest checking out the demo yourself to kind of see what I'm talking about there. So the one thing that you have to notice too with this game, like overall, I think that it's impressive because it wasn't built for the ARM architecture. It wasn't built for this type of system with the Nintendo Switch 2, yet it still performs pretty well. We got a 1080p, 30 frames per second according to Digital Foundry, but when you're playing the game, you can kind of see that 30 FPS if you've already played it on the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, that version of the game, or PC, you kind of see it a bit, and I did kind of see it, but although I did not play it all the way through at 60 FPS on the PlayStation 4 Pro, which is where I originally played it, it only plays at 30 FPS, but it felt pretty solid and good on there, and that's kind of how I feel here with the Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game. It's running at 30, and you can kind of tell, especially if you've been playing other RPGs that are running at 60 FPS, but you kind of adjust to it pretty quickly based on how just the combat looks and the fact that the frame rate is solid and consistent. It's solid and consistent, and it's not dipping all over the place from my gameplay. And when I looked at what Digital Foundry had to say as well, they also said the same thing, pretty much a solid locked 30 FPS with very few errant frame dips here and there based off of what's happening on screen overall. Now in portable mode, it is also 30 FPS with a few more dips. I didn't necessarily feel that in my portable mode gameplay, but then again, I didn't play the whole demo throughout portable mode, and I don't have my system hooked up to a machine that lets me know what the frame rate's at so I can go back and look at it. I'm just going off of me playing the game. It didn't feel like a bad 30 FPS. Like for example, when I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that game on the quality mode on PlayStation 5, that felt like a pretty bad 30 FPS compared to this that didn't feel like that. So there is definitely a difference in that sense. So overall, I was pretty shocked with that. I thought that maybe, not sure I'm gonna like it too much because of what I've played on the PlayStation 5 with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but it actually didn't do too bad here in this one overall. Now the HDR implementation is also well done here, which is good because with good HDR for the most part, you can have a game that looks excellent, especially with lighting and different stuff. So if you have an HDR TV, it's definitely going to be good to play Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade on that TV so you can get that HDR experience. I know for me, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond on the Switch 2, that was a great HDR experience. Not sure if it's the same quality of HDR here, but it still is pretty good based off of what I've seen overall. Now, another interesting note when it comes down to this is that Digital Foundry stating that the 1440p output on Xbox Series S doesn't look as good or as crisp as the Switch 2's 1080p output. So there's more than just native resolution or output resolution that can tell you how good a game looks or not. There's other things under the hood that's going on when it comes down to that with the Switch 2, which is interesting once again. But yeah, like whether you decide to play it on the Nintendo Switch 2 or not, that's going to be up to you, but I highly recommend the demo. Now I want to talk more a bit about the gameplay in the game because I find this combat system to be one of the more, I would say, visceral, one of the more interactive combat systems out there that really kind of blends what you'd expect with Final Fantasy, taking this old school turn-based ATB game and translating it over to an action RPG, but then still has some slowdown or turn-based elements to it, because if you want, at any point you can pause the action on screen where it moves pretty slowly and you can pick what command you want to do, whether you want to do a special attack or whether you want to do magic or use an item. So it's pretty cool in that sense, and I think it's a very clever way of having still some of the roots of a turn-based RPG actually built into a modern action RPG. So really, as I've played through and I got through the boss battle in this game and kind of really was just seeing the action overall and kind of analyzing everything in terms of my experience, even though I've played this game years ago, I was pretty impressed overall. And I think that it shows that the Nintendo Switch 2 can do some really great things when it has capable hands, capable developers putting out content on there. And I think that this is one of the more important games when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 because one, it's only $40 when it comes down to that. So that's pretty cool that you get the integrated content and all that. Buy it early, you can get digitally, you can get the original Final Fantasy VII as well. But to me, this is one of the more important games out there just because it shows that it can handle this type of big major JRPG overall. But also I think because Square Enix is going through a lot right now when it comes to their transformation and what they're doing. Obviously Final Fantasy just on PlayStation was not working out. You have the Nintendo Switch 2, which is a big, hot new system overall, and you need to start building a new fan base. And I think that for many people, this could be their first Final Fantasy game because Final Fantasy just isn't as popular as it used to be. So this honestly could be many people's first Final Fantasy game and the way for them and way for this franchise to get more popular overall. Or there might be people that haven't played Final Fantasy in quite some time and they're going to be going back to it for the first time in a long time with a new system like the Nintendo Switch 2. And I think that especially in Japan, this is incredibly popular because this used to be pretty much console exclusive, actually was just console exclusive to PlayStation and yes, PC, but console exclusive, and the Xbox just isn't something that does well in Japan. So really this opens up the door for so many gamers in Japan to be able to finally play Final Fantasy VII overall. So I think that Square Enix is really banking on this when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, this game, but then also the other games as well, because Rebirth is also coming over, in addition to Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3. So overall, I think Square Enix wants to make sure that Final Fantasy really truly gets back to where it was. When Final Fantasy was at its best in terms of sales-wise, it was essentially dominating in Japan, and they have not dominated in Japan for a very long time because of the decline of the PlayStation brand in Japan overall. So I do think that yes, well, it's probably going to be dominant when it comes to overall sales, of course, on PlayStation for right now. I do think that Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is Square Enix's first attempt at make sure that they can get back to having Final Fantasy be that global power when it comes to a release of the game, where so many people go out there and buy it day one. But at this point, it does seem like after the diehards go out there and buy Final Fantasy, nobody else is buying it like that. So I think this is one of the reasons why Square Enix is making a big change with how they do Final Fantasy and what they're doing with it and what platforms it's out on. And I think that it will affect what they do in the future. So we'll see exactly how that works out overall. But what are your thoughts when it comes down to this? Hopefully it's better than my voice. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click the notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.